The following images are the property of Nihon Ad Systems, TV Tokyo, Konami, and 4K Media. Hello everyone, it's Dylan from Yu-Gi-Oh! Everything, and welcome back to another Yugioh VRains episode review. This time, we will be going over episode 10, and I cannot wait to talk to you about this episode. For those of you that don't know, I'm not doing reviews for Yugioh VRains, or not reviews, excuse me. I'm not doing reactions for Yugioh VRains for a while, at least until this copyright situation hopefully solves itself out, so that's why there is no live reaction today. There probably won't be a live reaction for a couple of weeks. Just wanted to give you guys a heads up in case you were wondering if I was going to be doing a live reaction. So that's where I am currently with live reactions, but reviews, they are the breadth of this channel, and I absolutely will not stop doing episode reviews. So episode 10, let's get right into it. General impressions, what did I think about kind of the finale of the first duel between Revolver and Yusaku and the first part of the second duel? It's kind of cool that the rivals and the rival and the protagonist are already having two duels back to back. I don't think that's definitely never happened before in a Yu-Gi-Oh, at least this early in a Yu-Gi-Oh, but I can't even think of a time where two characters, except Judai and Yubel, where they drew, and I'm sure it's happened a couple more times, where there was a draw or no result, and then they dueled again right after it in like a new setting, and that's what we get in this episode, and that was really cool to see. And what VRains has done really well, even in these duel-heavy episodes, is they've dropped a couple of little lines here and there that can make you debate for hours with other people in the community on what the true meaning of those lines were. And I'm sure the one you guys know I'm talking about is when Revolver calls out for his father. Right after we see the card that Kogami puts into the field, Revolver makes a comment, "Father, I guess you're ready." So does that mean that Kogami is Revolver's father? And then what does that mean for the guy that's laying in bed that Revolver called his father before? So I'm going to get into that, my opinions on that, and I cannot wait to hear your guys' opinions on that as well. But before we begin, we have this attack coming from Topologic Bomber Dragon that if Yusaku does not dodge, the duel is over. He's going to lose, and he's going to lose everything. He's going to lose Aoi, he's going to lose Ignis, and it's going to be over. And even Emma makes a comment like, "Oh my god, Playmaker's about to lose," but he doesn't. He has a trap link restart, which a few of you had told me was probably going to happen. I have a friend, Sydney, who called it actually perfectly. I told her that if everything that she said happened, I'd give her a shout out, so this is this is her shout out, but she called it perfectly, and a good amount of you guys did, so kudos to all of you, because I would never have guessed something like that. At least card related. I'm not like I'm great with guessing what's going to happen in the plot. I just say a bunch of things and hope one of those things happen. But card related, you guys always seem to know what's going to happen or have a better idea of what's going to happen, which that is why I do love talking to you guys about it. So he plays Link Restart. He ends up taking his own turn, and he goes into the Data Storm. He goes into the Data Storm and he grabs what we have to assume is Firewall Dragon, because we wondered, how is he going to use Storm Access in a Master Duel? How is he going to use Storm Access in a Standing Duel if they're in the tornado that produces these cards? How is he going to be able to get Firewall Dragon? Well, our questions were answered in this episode. He gets it at the end of this speed duel. So he gets Firewall Dragon, and right before he's about to Link Summon, which again, we're all waiting to see, it would have been an awesome Link Summon, kind of because of the preview, we knew that it was not going to happen in this episode. So as soon as he goes for Link Summon, I'm like, Revolver's clearly going to stop this, and he does. And Revolver uses Topologic Bombers, or he doesn't actually, he uses a trap card to revive Capacitor Stalker, I think along with another monster. It might have just been Capacitor Stalker, but then Topologic Bomber Dragon activates its effects, destroys every monster in the main monster zone, and deals 800 points of damage to each player. So I actually thought that Yusaku's trap card might be something, when Topologic was originally attacking at the end of last episode, might be something that deals them like equal amount of damage. But it wasn't, and I'm kind of glad that they portrayed this a little better, because if they did that, it would have shown how defensive Yusaku was playing, and how he was kind of okay with the draw, which wouldn't have really fit his character's motives, I thought. So I'm glad they went this route instead, and I'm also glad I'm not writing the duels, because you don't want someone like me writing the duels. So I leave it to the experts, and they did it really well, because Revolver, sure, while he aimed for a draw, and while Ignis, called him a coward or whatever, he really wasn't aiming for a draw. He wanted to get it to the extreme stage, whereas he says Yusaku will meet his death. And they go into the Data Storm, and when we first heard about this in the summary for episode 10, where they were going to go into a Data Storm, I loved the prospect that Kusanagi would not be able to watch, that Emma and all the bystanders would not be able to watch, even though I don't think this duel is being broadcasted to the public, but it was being broadcasted to the 3 members of Soltech, which is very interesting. And they also, and again, this is what I mean by these small lines of dialogue. One of the chess pieces is they're talking like, yeah, but I think it's more concerning that the Knights of Hanoi can control data storms. And one of them makes a statement like, it can't be that guy, or something like that. And so they clearly know something that we don't know. They clearly know a person who maybe was a thorn in the side for them years ago, who maybe was with their company years ago and left. They know more than the viewer does, and I kind of like that right now, because it just gives us more questions. Who are they referring to? Are they referring to Revolver's father? Are they referring to Dr. Kogami? Are they referring to someone else who defected from Soltech and joined the Knights and maybe disappeared, but he low-key joined the Knights? Because Revolver can be anyone, and that's what's beautiful about the Yugioh VRains concept. We have no idea who these VR people are, and I'm sure they're going to use this more and more as the show goes on. Spectre can be anyone. That's his VR form. We don't know who he is in real life. Spectre could be Naoki for all we know. I mean, obviously he's not, but like, I like how that's always going to be a possibility with this show, and and it's just good for the plot, because it always is going to keep the viewer guessing. So, on to the other big plot point of this episode, and it was when Revolver called out for his father. He sees the card that Kogami puts onto the field, and we know it's the fire prison card that he uses, or I'm assuming it is, because it destroys the Cyberse at the end of this duel, and Ignis disappears, and Encode Talker and Decode Talker disappear as well. And Revolver says, "Father, I guess you're ready." Here's my thought on it. Here's my thought on it, because I've seen a lot of people, not a lot of people, but I've seen a couple of people on Twitter saying, "Oh my God, Dr. Kogami is Revolver's father," and that could be the case. And I'm not saying he's not the father, but this is more so what I think it is. I think the man in the hospital bed that Revolver visited in episode 3 is still his father. I think that man wanted to destroy the Cyberse. I think he was working on a card to destroy the Cyberse. And just like Spectre is Revolver's right-hand man, Dr. Kogami was Revolver's father's right-hand man. That's personally what I believe. Dr. Kogami carried on the work of Revolver's father when something horrible happened to him, as we know he's in the condition he is in now. And so when he said that, he wasn't talking about Kogami, he was talking about the card that his father made to destroy the Cyberse that was incomplete, that Kogami finished and saw through. That's at least what I think. That's why there's such a big age gap, it seems, between Kogami and Revolver and Spectre, even though, again, we don't know how old Revolver and Spectre actually are in the real world. You can make your, avatar however old you want, and I guess the same goes for Kogami. But personally, that's what I believe. I still think it's interesting that they did something like that, because now we're always going to have to keep in the back of our mind, all right, maybe Kogami is Revolver's father. So, as I want to hear your opinion on everything on the episode, that especially, please leave your thoughts down below. Do you think Dr. Kogami is Revolver's father, or do you think it is the man in the hospital bed, and you kind of agree to a degree with what I said, where Kogami was maybe the Spectre to Revolver's father, as Spectre is to Revolver, the right-hand man, and saw on the project to build this card to destroy the Cyberse. That's at least what I believe. The standing duel, I'm not going to comment too much on it, but I really enjoyed it. The plays were great, and what I really also loved is the contrast to the speed duel. With the speed duel, they're taking 1,000 points of damage, 800 points of damage, 2,000 points of damage, and after one episode, it was 300 life points to 100 life points. After half of an episode in the Master Duel, it's 4,000 life points to 3,600. Every time it seemed like one of these guys was going to land a big hit, like one of these guys was going to get rid of 1,000 life points, or 1,500 life points, or even like 800 life points. There was always an effect. The plays were really, really enjoyable. The counters were great, and the flow between these two characters were really good, and Revolver's strategy is one that keeps you guessing. It keeps you guessing, because you think he's going to summon Topologic Bomber, and instead he summons a new monster, 3-Shot Dragon, I believe it was, or 3-Burst Shot Dragon, something like that. And before he does that, he summons this huge Tank Dragon in defense mode, which pretty much limits Yusaku from Link summoning anything more than a level 2 or 3 monster. And only Link monsters can attack due to the field spell. So Revolver, his first turn was incredible. He handicaps Yusaku, and Yusaku his turn was maybe even more impressive because he isn't fazed by it at all. Then again, he's not fazed by anything. And he makes these great plays to get encode onto the field. And even when his strategy with encode talker fails, he sets up for his next turn to get decode talker onto his field. And then once he gets decode and once he gets encode talker onto the field, that's when Revolver activates the true effect of the fire prison that the field is currently engulfed in, which literally makes the entire Cyberse disappear. They can't be targeted for attacks. They can't use their effects. They're virtually invisible, and we see Encode Talker and Decode Talker seemingly like log out. They get all staticky and they leave, and then the next thing we know is Ignis is talking about how everything's getting dark, and he leaves Yusaku's duel desk, and Yusaku's reaction was just great. He's just like, he never shows any emotion, and that's something that I really do enjoy about him. But that's probably the most concerned he's been the entire show. Even with that, it was kind of crazy for me as a viewer, and I'm sure a lot of other viewers, like when you realize, because, okay, Encode Talker and Decode Talker are going to go, but then when you realize that Ignis is also part of the Cyberse and he starts disappearing, you're like, oh shoot, they are really going to be alone. I mean, this is now a situation where not only can Emma not get her cameras into the tornado, and not only can no one else see it, now Ignis won't even have data of what happens in this duel. It is just Revolver versus Yusaku, and they are the only ones who are going to have any recollection of what happened in this duel, and that is a prospect that I really do love. In the preview for the next episode, Yusaku says something like he can feel the Cyberse pulsing, and I'm hoping we're going to get a little more, maybe backstory on Revolver. I'm hoping we're going to get maybe a little more backstory on Yusaku. Where does Ignis go? It looks like he's in the ocean. So where do they even get teleported to, like the Cyberse, when he gets rid of it in this prison? And is his plan to eliminate the entire Cyberse, to put them in a card like this, a fire prison card, and just wipe everything away, because we know that that's the power of the fire prison? A lot of questions to be answered, guys. Leave all your thoughts down below. I really hope you enjoyed the review. It was another really exciting episode, and I cannot wait for next week's episode. Thank you for watching. I hope you have an amazing day.
I can't see a thing, but it's around somewhere. I'm gonna hold my head, cause I have no fear. This probably seems crazy, a graveyard theory. Our ghosts try to approach me and got leery. Ask him a question and he